It's a slow day, but it's also an anniversary. Are you cool about Carroll Rosenbloom? Live from the RamCave, I'm Joe Terosian, and this is RamView, the April 2nd, 2025 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Injured in an auto accident, need help, got questions? Call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. That's Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. That's one word, KistlerLawFirm.com. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair, having some auto issues, get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. Okay, not a lot to talk about. If I have some issues here in terms of the stream, we are like in a windstorm here in the home of the Camellias, and so I don't know if I'm going to fade in, fade out. We're going to try to get in the information I have. Not a lot of news breaking, but today is April 2nd. And if you're a Rams fan, you should know what April 2nd is. April 2nd is the day they pulled Carroll Rosenbloom's dead body out of the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of Florida. So, with that said, are you good in regards to Carroll Rosenbloom? But before we get to that, let's just remind you, hit like, hit subscribe. Check us out at From the RamCave on Spotify. We could use a lot of help there. And thank you for joining us. I am Joe Terosian. I'll get the commercial in now. I'm a sports writer. I've been a sports writer for over 21 years, and I'm contributing now at midvalleysports.com. It's a small website that many years ago I helped found with my friends, Tim Peterson, Dwayne Barker. They run the show over there now. I just make some contributions. They're in the room with the Chargers. I get to cover the Rams because of our sponsors at Kistler Law and Temple City Auto, who we are so grateful for. Also, I write books. My books are on Amazon. You can check them out there under my name, Joe Terosian. 3 football novels, 1 about the Rams. You should check it out. Okay, before we get into Carroll Rosenbloom stuff, all right? 1, I saw this one today all over the air, all over the Twitter sphere, X sphere, whatever you want to call it. Do you really believe Sean McVay when he's telling reporters that he hasn't looked at any quarterbacks in this year's draft? Now, I'll go along with him saying he's not liking any of the quarterbacks in this draft. I get that. But please, how do you know you're not interested in them unless you've studied them? So I get the feeling they've studied them, and 2 things, which everyone is already assuming. It's just funny because McVay is so good at the podium. He's so good behind the microphone. 2 things. He's doing typical Rams stuff, right? Not playing, showing any of their cards, not giving anyone any idea of what they're going to do. Okay, get that. Or what can I say? None of these guys are something that he wants to, how do I say, just completely dismiss, right? It's like, oh yeah, hey, he was there. We like him. It's just that you see the Rams playing a game, right? You just see them playing a game, and they're really hot after somebody, right? They're really hot after somebody, but they're not going to let anybody know it. That's just what you get with the Rams, and that's the fun part about the Rams. You never know what they're going to do draft time. And again, we've talked about it. I think I've shared it from my end. I don't know if you guys are there or not. We're good with anything the Rams do in this year's draft. Move back, move. I don't want to move too far forward, but we'll see. All right, we speculated about Von Miller doing a return engagement, but Pro Football Network today suggested that Zadarius Smith might be a guy. I'm good with Zadarius Smith. I'd be really good. I think he's producing a little bit more than Von Miller these days. And the truth is like I only kind of selected Miller's because he really didn't relieve the Rams because he wasn't happy. The Bills foolishly offered him 6 years, 133 rocks. You got to take it. Otherwise, he was coming back to the Rams. But if you have a choice between Von Miller and Zadarius Smith, I might go Zadarius, especially because you could limit his snaps. They would just be filling in here and there. Yeah, I do kind of like that one. I'm good with it. Rams need depth at that position, and we don't know what they're going to do in the draft, and we don't know much more about Nick Hampton after 2 seasons or Brennan Jackson after last year. Be nice to see if Hampton or Brennan Jackson kind of rose to the level of an Ogbo Okoronkwo, maybe a Samson Ibukam, not necessarily a first-rate edge player, but someone who can come in and just do some damage. So that would be cool. Let me look at some questions here that came in. A few of you guys have logged on. You waited for me. Thank you so much. Let's see here. USA X-Pac, hoping Jared Verse can add a new move to his pass rushing repertoire this season. USA, you hit on something there that I think that we're not talking much about. I don't know if anybody else is. That, Kobe Turner came back last year and was really good. And that was without Aaron Donald. Remember, there was the whole Aaron Donald effect, right? Aaron Donald makes everybody look good. Yet Kobe Turner came out and played great last year. He got better, actually. The same thing with you could see, I kind of lumped Byron Young in there with last year's draft class, even though it was the second year. But you saw it. You saw that there was that rowdiness, that anxiousness in the first half of the season. And then in the second half, they kind of slowed things down. And that's what I'm kind of anxious to see in regards to Jared Verse and Braden Fisk, is that the game's kind of slowed down for them. They in the back half of the season, they stopped missing all those tackles, giving away those sacks that they would have gotten. And that's the part. They're going to get better, right? And I think Byron Young is going to be better. Byron Young is a hardworking guy, right? We know that. Dollar Tree experience. This guy, he's mid-20s when he's drafted. This guy's a Rocky star. We love him. We would love him a lot more if Jared Verse wasn't here. But Jared Verse is here. It's kind of turned Byron Young into the Angels or the Clippers, right? And so, but Byron Young, smart guy. He has to know, okay, my third year, this is a money-making year, right? This is a money-making year because I'm going into my third year. I only got one more year left, and the Rams are going to have to sign Kobe Turner. They're going to have to probably, if Jared Verse stays on this trajectory, they're going to have to sign him early. And so there might not be much dough left there for Byron Young. So I got to believe he's going to come back better. And I'm glad you kind of said that, USA, because it challenges me. These guys are going to be better this year. They're not first and second year players anymore, right? In terms of Kobe Turner and Byron Young, their third year, and Verse and Fisk are going to be second year. And so that's a good point. I think they're going to be better. Let's see, USA Expat. I still feel blessed to have met Carroll Rosenbloom. Whoa, you met Carroll Rosenbloom? Wow, I'd love to hear that story. JTBank1964 at yahoo.com. I'll drop my email in there again. You can send it to me, USA. Guy Smithson, thanks for joining us, Guy. Carroll R. was great. His wife, Georgia, was the worst for the Rams. I believe the great Tim Burns, loyal RamView follower and contributor here, he's forbidden me to use that name, but she's like on the level with Lord Voldemort, right? And we're going to talk a little bit about that whole situation on the other side of the show here. But yeah, I didn't know any better. See, by the time I became a Ram fan back half of 72, Rosenbloom had just taken over the team. And so I didn't live in that Dan Reeves era. I wasn't, to me, George Allen was the Redskins coach. And then I found out he had been the Rams coach. And so I missed all that drama between Dan Reeves, the Rams then owner, and George Allen. So I missed all that drama. And so it was always, to me, it was Carroll Rosenbloom, right? And it was always Don Klosterman as the GM. So there we go. Let's see. Bill, don't want a quarterback. I want an offensive weapon at 26. We are too close to a Super Bowl to go for a quarterback. Okay, let me just I agree with you, and I'm not going to be upset whatever the Rams do. My thing is, they draft a quarterback, he sits for a year, maybe two. You draft an offensive tackle right now or an offensive lineman, he's going to sit for a year, at least a year, and then find out, can he replace Havenstein? You draft a receiver, how do you, he'd be the fifth receiver because you're paying 10 million rocks to Tutu Atwell. And so to me, it makes sense that if you're going to go get something dynamic, it would be at tight end, maybe another running back. That's what I would be thinking. But I have no problem getting another receiver. I have no problem with all that. But I heard somebody make the argument, well, if you draft a quarterback, he doesn't help us this year. I'm not saying you are, Bill, but they make that argument. It's like no one's going to help us this year offensively in certain positions. Cornerback obviously would help us right now, but just something to think about there. Manny Correa, did you see talking about the Rams are looking into Ashton Giet, Louisville? Man, I didn't follow up on that, bro. Sorry about that. Guy Smithson, I'll make a note. Ashton Giet, I think you've mentioned his name before. Guy Smithson, trade back makes sense at 26. Players are close in talent, so we could use a second with a third. Good. I'm all down with that. I am. I want more picks in the top 100. I do. Absolutely. Manny Correa, Oz Thomas, FSU might be a Ram. That would be kind of cool, right? Get another FSU player in there. He'd have Fisk and Verse to hold him accountable if he's not holding himself accountable, on top of all the layers of leadership the Rams have. I didn't really look at I looked at a lot of the mock drafts today. I'm going to wait again until Friday because everything is trending corner. Harrison from Kentucky, Oz from Florida State, and the kid Trey Amos from Ole Miss. Jahande Barron too, the guy from Texas. They're all trending Rams at cornerback at 26, and I think we're good with that too. I'm going to talk about cornerbacks a little bit on the other side when we get to around the NFL and other places here. Let's see. Manny Vasquez, if Rosenbloom doesn't die, the Rams never move to St. Louis. The fan base stays intact and would be bigger than it is now. It was brutal watching Frontier drive them into the ground just to justify her move. Ooh, jumping the gun. I am going to get to that. Manuel. Manny Correa, the gap between 26 until 90 is wide. Feeling a trade back. I agree. Guy Smith's and George Allen famous quote, luck is a residue of design. I think I've heard that before. I'm glad you shared it. I'm a George Allen fan. You know, my personal, I got two George Allen quotes that I love. One is before the NFC title game in 72 against the Cowboys when he says 40 men together can't lose. I love that one. And then there's that one NFL Films has also where it's every time you lose, you die a little bit inside. A portion of you dies. Maybe not all your organs, maybe just your liver, right? I just love that one. Every time you lose, you die a little bit inside. Steve Ramirez, that's a Branch Rickey quote. Okay. Hey, well, George Allen, maybe he can quote Branch Rickey. There we go. Manny Correa, draft defense. Draft the best player available. There you go. Okay. Kyren Williams is in renegotiations, and I was asking you guys what you thought. What would you pay him? And I said I wouldn't pay him anything more than 14. And I kind of settled on my running back number. It feels like this has been my running back number for the last couple of years. 3 years, 39 rocks for Kyren Williams. Is that okay? Is that fair? Christian McCaffrey makes 19. Technically, Barkley was supposed to make 15 this year. I think he's bumping up to 20. I don't know if he's bumping up to 20 this year or next year. But we also know McCaffrey's done. 49ers overpaid. Rams aren't under the gun to emulate the 49ers at all. Barkley, on the other hand, is the gold standard right now. He's making 15. 15 base. I think he's up to 20 this year. I'd have to check what he's actually making this year. We know it's going up higher. Jonathan Taylor's making 14 rocks with the Colts. Derrick Henry signed a 2-year, 16-rock contract with the Ravens last year. This is the second year, but most of that money was backloaded, so it's a 12.8 cap hit this year. Alvin Kamara is 12.5 rocks. Josh Jacob with the Packers is 12 rocks. I think Kamara has slowed down. Derrick Henry's a Hall of Famer. Jonathan Taylor, kind of pricey for a guy that drops the ball before he crosses the goal line. Barkley, it's another level. And I've matured on Barkley. I was anti-Barkley, but I've matured on Barkley. McCaffrey, 19 for a guy that's, kind of broken down now. I'm not paying that. So what would you pay Kyren Williams? What would you pay him? I got 3 years, 39. That's before we're talking guaranteed. Give him 13 a year. That's about the max, though, because I just wouldn't. You got a lot of running backs coming out in this draft. You got Blake Corum. I just wouldn't break the bank for him. and this is his final year. So, I just wouldn't break the bank. I know that sounds awful for everything he's done, but I just wouldn't. Let's see. Steve Ramirez, coming off the plane prior to the Rams-Vikings playoff game in 1969, responding to cold. Oh, George Allen, it's Rams weather. Manuel Vasquez, I agree with Manny Correa. Defense is close to being finished in the being special. Finish it in the draft. Okay, you're going to go corner. That's what we would want, right? Corner, I think. Let's see. Dano, don't pay Kyron. Draft a running back. I'm sorry. Running backs are a dime a dozen. There's a possibility the North Carolina guy, Omarion Hampton, could be there. Again, what do you get? The reason the Rams drafted Corum is because Corum can do all the other things. Kyron Williams can do all the other things. Besides catch the ball, they can block and pass pro. I'm not so sure about Omarion Hampton, but there's a lot of guys out there that you can draft. Maybe you don't have to. I like Hampton at 26. When we started talking about Hampton, they were talking him in the mid-second round, and he's climbed up the boards. Not because we're talking about him, but just because it was just a natural thing to do. You look at his highlights and everybody's changing their tune on running backs. But the truth is, Dano, you're right. They are a dime a dozen. You won the Chiefs won 2 Super Bowls with Isaiah Pacheco, a 7th-round pick. Now, the Eagles beat the Chiefs with Saquon Barkley. But do you think if the Chiefs had an offensive line that was up to snuff, it would have been that easy? Would it? I don't know. I don't know. I don't think it would have been. There we go. Manny Vasquez. Running backs are a dime a dozen. They can get another one in the draft and save. And there's no emotional attachment anymore, right? We used to, I think all of our emotion left with Cooper Kupp. It's like, no, we like Kyron. We've seen him growing up. He's done great for us. Like, now get him out of here. He doesn't hit enough home runs. Guy Smithson. Kyron is not in the highest paid running back conversation, not in that level. You just never know. What their agents are going to ask for, right? Jonathan Taylor getting 14 rocks is way overpaid to me, right? Derrick Henry, you give him whatever he wants because he is a Hall of Famer. Kamara making 12 is overrated, right? I think he's done. That's just me. I could be wrong. I like Josh Jacobs a lot. I thought he proved it with the Packers. Let's see. Who else got stuff in here? USA expat. Hampton runs, blocks, catches, passes, and has home run abilities. The only one I didn't get on there, USA expat, was did his numbers come back? Is he good blocking? Is that because I've seen the highlights, right? I didn't look the breakdown sometimes, and I probably should have looked at it better. But does he score well as a blocker? And that would be an amazing pick. That would be a great pick. As long as the Rams figure out a way to use this guy. Steve Ramirez, I prefer to trade back, but reading teams don't want to trade up because of thin draft. Yeah, it's going to be a hard move back. Manuel Vasquez, I would love to have a running back that does what William does, but with breakaway speed. At that point, then he would be Christian McCaffrey probably, right? He would be Alvin Kamara or something like that. But yeah, if McVay wants to be more dynamic, right? If McVay wants to be more dynamic, then that you do need that home run hitter. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, you guys keep throwing me your thoughts about Kyron Williams. I don't think we're going to go 50 today, guy. I don't think we are. But let's just keep rolling it on here. Talking about the Rams offensive line, we broke this down. I had a heated show on Monday about the Coleman Shelton being declared the starter after he was run out of Chicago. But talking about, yes, there was that bad moment in the Eagles game. I say it again. Bo Limmer took his eyes off Jalen Carter, looked at Milton Williams, Milton Simmons, looked left, and Jalen Carter went in and blasted Stafford, and the season was over pretty much, right? But up to that point, he had played really well, or good enough for a 6th-round pick. We forget Stafford was sacked 28 times during the regular season, okay? 28 times. 17 of those sacks came in the first 7 games. 17 in the first 7 games. In the last 10 games, he was sacked 9 times. I'm sorry, he was sacked 11 times. But 9 of those sacks came against Miami and Philly. Philly is Philly. Okay, we give Philly their credit. Miami, that was that miserable game where we got all excited because Avila and Jonah Jackson came back, right? And we made the Dolphins look like the no-name defense of 73. That was probably the angriest I'd been all year. But the rest of those games, we didn't give up any sacks. I think we gave up 2 in New Orleans. The final 4 games in the regular season that Stafford played in, he wasn't sacked at all. And so Limmer did his job. The offensive line did their job. Stafford got sacked twice against Minnesota in the playoffs and then 5 times against the Eagles. But, hey, we sacked Jalen Hurts 7 times in the playoffs. So just the idea that I don't know. I don't want to revisit the Coleman Shelton rant I went on, but just the idea that we're getting better, it just doesn't wash for me. And again, I'm hoping it's a head game they're playing on Bo Limmer. I'm hoping they're just kind of messing with him pretty good here. All right, let's see what we got here. Questions came in. Let's see. All right, let's see. Tim Burns, Scattaboo. Okay, Scattaboo. Yeah, the Rams have interviewed him. There's another Sacramento State guy the Rams recently interviewed, Mr. Burns. Are you aware of that? Let's see. USA expat, wait until after the draft to consider a Kyren extension. They're in negotiations now, so I don't know, when the timing of all that, but that's something to keep in mind. Guy Smithson, agree with USA expat. Yeah, there you go. Tim Burns, I don't like Limmer appearing not to have a shot at starting center. I don't like the optics of it. I don't think anybody, well, I don't think a lot of people do. But yeah, he made one mistake, right? Limmer's mistake is well documented, but what about the offensive line decisions versus Miami? Huge mistake. There you go. We brought it up. There you go. USA expat. Good job. Manny Correa, my running backs are DJ Giddens, Ollie Gordon, Raheem Sanders, LaQuint Allen, Syracuse. DJ Giddens. Someone tell me about DJ Giddens. I've heard that name. I need some help there. Guy Smithson, Rams will blah best center. Coach is not dumb. Rams will play best center. Yeah, I like to think so too. And that's what I want to believe. They've earned our trust, right? They've earned our trust. Steve Ramirez, I like Ford out of Texas. There we go. Okay, let's keep rolling along here. Around the NFL and other places, not a whole lot of news here, but I thought this one was interesting. The Cardinals signed, they reacquired Calais Campbell, about 6'8". It says 307 on Pro Football Focus. I think he's a little heavier than that, but Calais Campbell, legitimate dude. He's 38. I've always wanted the Rams to kind of bring him in. After he left the Cardinals the first time, it looked like his career was winding down. But I remember when the Cardinals drafted him. This is when the draft was all day. And I remember I threw my whole family out of the house. This is before I built the RamCave. And I'm sitting in the living room, and I've got my everything around me, just keeping track of the draft. And I remember when the Cardinals took him, I remember the NFL Network's Mike Mayock, he was there at the time, and he was saying the Cards got a first-round talent with the 50th overall pick. And that made me, because I've always remembered that statement that Mayock made, it made me go and look at the defensive ends that were taken ahead, or edge types that were taken ahead of Calais Campbell in the 2008 NFL draft. And number 2 overall, Chris Long. Number 6 overall, Vernon Golston to the Jets. Number 8, Derek Harvey. I think he went to Jacksonville. Number 28, Lawrence Jackson, LoJack, Inglewood High School. I saw him play in high school out of USC. And then number 32, Philip Merlin. By 2013, the middle part of this class, Golston, Harvey, LoJack, Merlin, they were all gone. Chris Long played till 2018, and he finished with 70 sacks. Now, let's be honest, Ram fans. We liked Chris Long. He was far from a bust, solid player, took his act out there every day. But come on, right? Second overall pick. This was a weak draft if Chris Long's the second overall pick. So that was a bit of a struggle. He finished with 70 sacks and 2 rings. Picked up one with New England and picked up one with Philly. So good for him. Great career. That's great. But he wasn't a great player. Calais Campbell's been playing since 2008. He's got 110 tackle, 110 sacks. He's likely not a Hall of Famer. Definitely not. But this is a guy that just keeps on playing. All of his contemporaries have been out of the league for 7 years. And he keeps playing. He keeps getting contracts. And, yeah, I do like Calais Campbell. I like Calais Campbell a lot. You got a 6'8" lineman, right? He batted down a few balls last year against the Rams. Of course, they made him look better than he was. But, yeah, that was pretty good signing by the Cardinals to bring him back. You limit his snaps. You get a lot of clicks out of him. I would have loved to seen I don't know what he was asking for, but I would have loved to seen the Rams pull him in for a ring chase. That would have been pretty cool. Notable free agents still on the market: Aaron Rodgers, Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper. We talked about Von Miller and Zadarius Smith. And then the cornerbacks, okay? The cornerbacks. James Bradbury, released by the Eagles, or just let go by the Eagles, or allowed to walk by the Eagles. Kendall Fuller. Asante Samuel, who a lot of people around here have been talking about because the Chargers haven't re-signed him. Rasul Douglas, who I thought signed, has left the Bills. And I was kind of curious. I was trying to look and see what their market value is. Asante Samuel and Rasul Douglas are both 4 years, 45 rocks. That means 11 mil a year. Are you about to pay that for any of those guys? That's why I think one of those guys or both those guys, they might get signed in August when there's no market for them anymore. And here's the other thing. That's 4 years, 45 for a cornerback that's old and busted. For new hotness, Christian Benford at Buffalo, he just signed a 4-year, 76 rock deal. New hotness, 4 years, 76. Old and busted, 4 years and 45. And Trey White's out there too. He's worth 1.3, but I don't think we're going to go back to Trey White. Just something to think about in regards to USA Expat dropped a line there. He's got some belief in Emmanuel Forbes. He's joined me in this and lends to the idea that if the Rams are going to bring another corner in, I imagine it's going to be through the draft and not one of these free agents. Something to think about. Bengals are struggling with their talks with Trey Hendrickson and the contract extension. Honestly, Trey Hendrickson should be saying, what can you give me, right? Because I'm the only defensive player you got, right? And everyone's getting all excited about the Bengals this year. One, you're assuming Joe Burrow's going to have another healthy year. And two, they didn't bring in anybody new. They just kept the same guys in-house that missed the playoffs last year. So I don't understand what that is. They got to get better on defense. It probably starts with Trey Hendrickson, or they should try to trade him for some mileage, because I don't think they're going anywhere. I don't think they're going to get by. Baltimore. I think Baltimore's in good shape. Browns are lost. Steelers don't have a quarterback. Oh no, they got Mason Rudolph. Hooray! And then of course, you've got Cincy's issues. This super tough AFC North now belongs to the Ravens. It has to, right? It has to. And it looks like I think there's every good possibility the AFC Championship game is going to go through Baltimore this coming year. All right, let's see what else we got here. All right, let's keep moving in. Manuel Correa, we need a big running back, no more little ones. Yeah, there's that profile, though, the Rams like, right? That 5'10", 5'9" guy, I think 5'10's a stretch. Let's see. USA Expat, agree. Ollie Gordon is a stud running back. Ollie Gordon where? Where's Ollie Gordon from? I need to do some more homework on him. Manuel Correa, right, USA. He's a beast. Is Gordon the big guy? Is he 6? I'm not going to say it because I'll probably be wrong. Steve Ramirez, Reed NFL will use the Hawkeye to measure first downs. Red NFL will use the Hawkeyes to measure first downs in 2025. Bad spotting will still exist, though. So we're not going to have the chains anymore. Is that it? They got rid of the chains? That's some of the best theater on the planet. Don't you love the chains? The ref comes out, he's pinching that one link, and they're marching out there, and it's just that build up, just so you can see can you flit is there space, right? I hope that's not That's not a late April Fool's Day joke. I really like the chains. That's a bummer. Manny Correa, Jackson Slater. Okay, the guard from Sacramento State. I knew that one, Manny. Thank you very much. USA expat. When I was a kid, every time a pass got banned down the line, we yelled Merlin Olsen. All right, cool. Scott B., Florida. Sorry I'm late. No worries, Scott. Thanks for joining us. Tim Burns, Steeler fan Rob got me on April Fool's joke, said Cousins was a Steeler. He wishes. Yeah, this guy's having nightmares about Mason Rudolph. Of course he's doing all kinds of jokes because he doesn't want to live in the reality of Mason Rudolph. There you go. Can you imagine Mason Rudolph? Mason Rudolph's like one of those old light beer commercials when we were kids. Do you remember when we worked all day and then they brought us light beer? Have you ever tasted light beer? And that's what it is. We work all hard. We build up our defense. We bring in DK Metcalf. We keep George Pickens. And then you're going to give us Mason Rudolph? Have you ever seen Mason Rudolph? Yeah, that's good. Manny Vasquez, I wouldn't mind if the Rams took Samuel, but not at 11 per. He wants to take between 6 to 8 to stay in LA and go on a winner. Go get him. I don't even know if I'd want to give him 6 to 8 right now because I believe in Emmanuel Forbes. And let's see who they draft this year. I'm not hot on the Asante Samuel. Rams do it. I'm good. I'm not hot on it. Tim Burns, they had San Francisco at 10.5 wins with LA. Same as LA, not a chance. I think that's a bit of a stretch too. Steve Ramirez, chains will be a backup. Okay, so we're keeping the chains. Dano, Pastor Joe, would you trade Trey Henderson for Byron Young? I would. Are you talking Trey Hendrickson from Cincy for Byron Young? Yeah. The only thing is he kind of blows up the cap model the Rams have right now. Nobody on the defense is making any bread, right? Nobody's making any bread. Even next year, they might not be, even going into 2026, they might not be making any bread, serious bread. And Hendrickson would kind of blow that up a little bit. As far as player per player, yeah, I think we would take Hendrickson, right? And again, Byron Young, he was in his mid-20s when he came to the Rams. You know, how much life does he have left in him? That's a funny thing to say. He's only going into his third year. I love Byron Young. I really do. I like to see him wrap up a little bit more. But Trey Hendrickson, yeah, that guy's a perennial. ESG, there's a 500-pound defensive tackle from Florida. They say he's going to be a 6th or 7th round. Is that the cat that's wearing number 21? He's built like a 747, and he's wearing number 21. Florida, Scott B., do something here, right? You're in Florida. How can you give number 21 to a guy that weighs 7,000 pounds, right? It just looks so weird. Was he the guy they were talking about a couple years ago? They couldn't even find stuff that fit him. Yeah, I'm wondering how that is. Scott B., hard to move him, double teamed a lot. Well, he fits the role as a toilet clogger, right? That's for sure. Okay, 6'1", 226. There you go. Ollie Gordon, Oklahoma State. Thank you, USA expat. ESG, yes, he's number 21. I saw those pictures. Wow. All right. So the chains are staying. Well, as a backup. Well, I hope the Hawk system fails. They should use the chains in the fourth quarter just to make the drama better. Scott B., need a butt plunger. Butt plunger. There, big plunger. There you go. If that's him. Yeah, if that you put that guy in the middle, you're going to need and that's be cool. You just let him lay down, right? You just let him lay down. I'm all for that. 7th round pick, toilet clogger, awesome sauce. Remember when we thought Refrigerator Perry was oversized? Yeah, I remember that. I remember looking at Rams numbers, and you had Joe Schiavelli playing right guard at 245 pounds, and we thought those guys were huge, right? So speaking of Jackson Slater, the Sacramento State guard, he was on the list that was added to the list of players the Rams have interviewed, as was Nebraska tight end Thomas Fidone and Texas A&M DT Shamar Turner were added to the list of Rams players the Rams have interviewed or are going to interview in the coming weeks. Well, we've only got 3 weeks left until the draft, so I imagine it's going to happen pretty quick here. All right, let's see. Tim Burns, wow, he is huge. He is huge, Tim. I think he's you and me put together. Guy Smithson, Trey Henderson of Ohio State would be a good fit for the Rams. Oh, the running back, yes. big, fast, and an elite program. Yeah, there's a lot of things there that, again, that's kind of the cool part about where the Rams are. Yeah, there's that gap. I understand what everyone's talking about. Steve Ramirez and a lot of folks are talking about 26 to 90. There's a huge gap, but it's a huge gap in a not so deep draft. So if you come away with a couple of home runs, you come away with a couple of guys that contribute, that's going to be huge. And so, yeah, I'm for all of it, right? I think I'm up for anything right now. I think the only thing I'm not up for is Coleman Shelton being declared the starter on the offensive line. Manny Vasquez, Emmanuel Forbes would be perfect if he was about 20 pounds heavier. I remember him at the combine. He was ranked third, but his size kept coming up. Getting back to Emmanuel Forbes, USA Expat brought it up just before the show when I was pushing all the buttons to get ready to go. Again, I've talked a lot about him. I've been talking about him since January. My thing is that the Rams assumed the rest of his rookie contract. He was put on waivers. They didn't sign him because the Redskins or the Texans hadn't cut him loose yet. They put him on waivers. And then the Rams grabbed him, and that's why they had to assume the responsibility for his contract. And that only thing that says to me is they think this guy is salvageable. They think he's salvageable. And now he had, a quarter of a season or so with Chris Shula, got a little bit of playing time, but now he's got a whole offseason with the Rams defense. And so, wow, if they could rescue this guy. Remember, Darius Williams was an undrafted free agent originally signed by the Baltimore Ravens, and they put him in the street. And the Rams got him, and the Rams got a competent Super Bowl winning cornerback in Darius Williams, who was competent last year. He's got his limitations, but he's a competent corner in the NFL. And so the Rams have done this before. And so it'd be real. And this guy's a higher talent. I mean, where was he drafted? 14th overall? And there's just opportunity here. And I love the fact that the Rams just took a swing here. Now, I can be absolutely wrong on Emmanuel Forbes, but I guarantee you, if I'm right, you're going to hear about Emmanuel Forbes. So there we go. Thank you, Manuel Vasquez. Michael Negretti, Pastor Joe, it's time for Dodgers baseball. Maybe for you, but I'm blacked out. They show MLB on Apple TV, Prime, and I got YouTube TV. I've got the MLB ticket, courtesy of a close family friend. And you know what? I can't see a Dodger game live. So this is why I'm not a Dodger fan. So maybe they rot and lie stinking in the earth, okay? They run a great front office. They do a great job. They won the World Series. I'm a Mets fan because I can watch the Mets. And the Dodgers deprived me, Vin Scully, for 2 years. So hit the road, Jack. All right, there we go. Tim Burns, I am up for anything but a trade up. No one is worth for what we need. Tyler Warren, would you go up for Tyler Warren? I think Tyler Warren or a minimal move up for Colston Loveland. I'm just kind of curious what you think there. All right. Kurt Gibson sucks. There you go. Yeah, you would think that, Mr. A's fan. All right. I want to get to this real quick here because it is April 2nd.
It was a stone groove, my man.
Okay. April 2nd, 1975. The Rams trade Ken Einman, at least his rights, to the Cardinals for an undisclosed draft pick. Rams were moving Rick Saul into that position. He was the starting center for the Rams from 75 through 81. Ken Einman was a starting center for 10 years for the Rams. Love Ken Einman. Where's number 50? A la Bo Limmer. Went to the Cardinals, but he retired before the Rams could collect on that undisclosed draft pick. All right. Anything else here? April 3rd, 1964, Shane Conlon is born. Shane Conlon was 9th overall pick of the Bills in 1987 at Penn State, won a national title there, played 6 seasons for Buffalo, played in 3 Super Bowls, named to 3 Pro Bowls, plays 3 seasons with the Rams, 40 games, 37 starts, and is done at the age of 31 and doesn't move the needle at all. He's one of those flash bang where it just looks like the Rams are doing something, but he was all part of the reason to get the Rams falling apart to go to St. Louis. That's my theory anyway. And that leads right into the other theory that I wanted to get into today. Carroll Rosenbloom on this day in 1979 drowns in the ocean off the coast of Florida. There was a canceled tennis match. They said he was walking along the coast, decided to go swimming, and the next thing you know, they're pulling his body out of the ocean. And I remember hearing about it, reading about it in the paper, not thinking much about it at the time. But here's the thing. Everyone talks about conspiracy theorists and all that kind of stuff. Oh, you're just crazy that it was a hit and all that kind of stuff. Well, I got to tell you, what was it, a few months later when Georgia fired Steve Rosenbloom, her stepson, it had a real Cinderella feel to it, and it didn't smell right, right? Within a year, or a little more than a year later, she marries Dominic Frontieri, who's a guy that later people have said had mob ties. Then it really starts to stink, right? And then Howard Cosell does a little breaking news on it, or a little investigative news on it, and you get to understand that Rosenbloom had gambling debts and all those things. Something really suspicious. And I thought another thing that was interesting that I didn't learn until much later was one of Rosenblum's best associates, one of the guys he was closest to, about 4 or 5 months after Rosenbloom died, was this lawyer from Vegas that was really tight with Jerry Tarkanian, and he was found in the trunk of his car in Las Vegas. And so there's just a lot of fishy things there. And if Georgia's clean, 7 husbands, if Georgia was clean, she had a really bad way of showing it because, it's like you fire your stepson, you got total control of the team because of the spinning wheel, the way that Rosenbloom did his will, set up his will, and it just happened to stop spinning when Steve had nothing and she got, 70%? And then you marry Dominic Frontieri right after. I heard she was an hour late to the funeral. I only read that secondhand. But all that stuff, it was like, we always thought it was suspicious. And I think it bears discussion a little bit. What did you guys think about that? If you're longtime Ram fans, at the time, I thought nothing. The firing of Steve Rosenbloom, that was a big deal. That was a real big deal. It smelled bad. Frontieri marrying Dominic Frontieri smelled bad. And then this is where we get to it. If Carroll Rosenbloom lives, Don Klosterman stays as GM, right? There's no John Shaw, right? Maybe we move off Malavasi a little sooner, right? And what happens? Do we play games? Do we keep Ferragamo after the 80 season? After he throws 30 touchdown passes, we don't get outbid by Nelson Skilbania up there with the Alouettes. What happens? One of my favorite things to do is play what if. What if Rosenbloom lives and his son Steve takes over? I think it's kind of fascinating. Now, Klosterman was far from done as a GM. He helped bring in a ton of talent with the LA Express. When he was GM there before the USFL folded, the Express had a ton of talent. They just had no money. And keeping that group together, man, you have to wonder what could have happened with the Rams. Definitely, as we talked about, there would be no St. Louis. I don't think there would be any St. Louis. You have to wonder. I think we might have gotten by Frisco in one of those years. I think we could have had a year if we had drafted Eric Dickerson. I think we would have found a way to make it work, right? Pretty fascinating stuff. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Let me see Neil Gonzalez. Let me respect Neil's here. I see if Sanders falls in the draft, do you think the Steelers draft him? Yes, Neil, I think the Steelers have to draft him, right? I think you have to. You have to find out. And honestly, if the Rams haven't got any buyers for number 26 and Shedeur Sanders is there, I think you have to draft him. You got to find out. Let's see here. Steve Ramirez. Also, Steve Rosenbloom also had a car crash a few months after Carroll's death. His brakes gave out. So, Steve, you're with me on this. I heard that the brake fluid was gone on his car, which I've heard that's kind of a mob move. Let's cut the brakes on his car or something like that. That's pretty interesting. Let's see. Guy Smithson, LA JFK conspiracy. Well, man, we were crushed. She killed the Rams, right? We were crushed. And then those of us that could, I stuck with the Rams. I'm rooting for the Rams in Super Bowl 34. And then she does that whole, we proved we did the right thing by moving to St. Louis. And it's like, there was nothing magnanimous about this woman. She is the Lord Voldemort of the NFL. So there we go. Willie Bowen, the woman who shall be nameless, Georgia Rosenbloom Frontier, sucks. Manny and Willie saying hi. Tim Burns, Georgia forgot where the life preservers were, allegedly. Willie says hi to Manny. Guy Smith and Ferragamo in that Super Bowl loss with Swan hauling in those passes. Bad memory. I got to tell you, I watched, talking about the Rosenbloom thing, the NFL films highlights of that Super Bowl 14, and you hear Facenda's voice, it still makes me a little misty. It does. I get a little verklempt because how bad I wanted that one. I would give back 34 for 14. I would, because that would have been just a great closure to that era, right? Because the teams stayed together, right? I think I pointed out Dreyer, Youngblood, Brooks, Reynolds and Elmendorf, Jim Youngblood, even these guys were all around from 73. They were always there, right? And so you had a relationship with these guys. You knew who they were. You loved them. And, that just would have been something to see them walk off with that. And what kills me. Let's see. Manny Correa, USA, Ollie Gordon is my guy. Okay. Dano, Willie Bowen, do you like any fullbacks of this year's draft? Don't tempt him, Dano. Manny Vasquez, St. Louis never happens, and the fan base is a lot different and not divided. There you go. Willie Bowen, some of them are good, Dano. Manny Correa, 79 Super Bowl, our first, the best feeling ever. It was great to get there, to be part of that club. We're not the Lions. We're not the Browns. It was just, it was there, right? It's kind of like the Philly game this year. It's just, there's some games, it's like, I lament on how bad the Rams were blowing out in the 78 NFC Championship game, and I was at the 75 one, but it was over so fast that it was like, what are you going to do? But you look at that Philly game and the Rams had a shot. You look at that Super Bowl 14, the Rams had a shot. You look at the NFC title game in 76 and 74, the Rams had a shot. That was their shot. They had an opportunity. I got to tell you, I wasn't confident in 89 in the NFC title game against Frisco. I just wasn't at all, even though we had 2 road wins. I wasn't confident. But it's those moments where you had a shot and you didn't finish it. Yeah. Scott B, last year McVay wanted to trade up for Bowers. He will go after Ward if he can make the offense more dynamic. The question is, what does he have to pay for it, Scott B? That's it. What do you pay? What's the price? Willie Bowen, I'm glad Pat Thomas and Nolan put Lynn Swann out of the game. Okay, see, Willie, now you bring up the crisis of my life, okay? Start of the fourth quarter, Swann's out of the game. Swann's out of the game with a concussion. Thank you, Pat Thomas. Why, oh, why would you ever not have John Stallworth not bracketed? And, of course, he was meant to be bracketed. And Eddie Brown let him run right by him. It wasn't even a play action. It wasn't even as if Bradshaw used play action, because there was no point of using play action against the Rams that day because they couldn't run against the Rams. And Eddie Brown just froze. Stallworth runs by him. Perry's expecting inside help. He doesn't get it. He's hung out to dry, and he still comes. If Perry is 5'9 3/4, he tips that ball away. But then sadly, he was only 5'9, and that was the pain of my life. There we go. Manny Correa, Scott, no player is worth losing draft capital. Everyone wants a tight end because of Bowers. We'll see. We'll see how that plays out. Manny Correa, Nolan Cromwell, my favorite Ram. Yeah, I got Steve Ramirez on here. His heartbreak of Cromwell dropping the sure pick 6. Yeah. Let's see. Manny Vasquez, I was 11 when they lost that Super Bowl in 79, and I'm still not over it. Of course, I'm not over the 01 Super Bowl either. You know what? I got over that one a little bit faster, but that 79 one, I think because emotionally I was invested in that team, right? I think that's what did it most for me there. Guy Smithson, Pat Thomas, Rod Perry, the cornerbacks in that era were good. Oh, man, Pat Thomas, Rod Perry, that's the gold standard as far as I'm concerned of Ram corners. Absolutely. Love Pat Thomas and Rod Perry. Pat Thomas was so tough, and he's just tough. Just awesome. Steelers, that's why I hate the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay. Manny Vasquez. Cool. Manny Cromwell was my favorite player too. Okay. Tim Burns. Agree, Manny. And notice 0-1 loss no one talks about. Yeah. I think what happened to me in that 0-1 loss is I was watching it with a bunch of friends. Well, I was the new pastor at my church, and we had a Super Bowl party. And so I got to be pastorly, right? And so I'm watching this game with a bunch of people who are caring more about the commercials, and they didn't see the slow burn I was doing. And I was furious because I think I made this argument on Wednesday. I said, I thought there was a couple seconds left after Vinatieri's kick went through the uprights. I thought they should have. So the second it clears the uprights, the clock should stop. And to me, there was 1 second left, and Tony Horn could get a shot to return the kick. Also, I thought, I thought there were some cheap shots there that on the pick six that Kurt Warner threw that they didn't call that. That was it looked like a helmet to his chin. They didn't call that. And then, of course, if you want to get crazy conspiracy, that it was like, oh, no, that was the year of 9/11. We had to have the Patriots win. That's just me. And so would Georgia take a bribe? Yeah. No, I don't think Vermeil will or any of the players will. But, yeah, there we go. All right, let me wrap this thing up, guys. Let's see. Steve Ramirez, 2021 made up for it all. And the Vikings are still winless in the Super Bowl era. That's karma. There we go. You know what that tells me, Steve, is Ron Jesse was in. Manny Correa, if we beat New England, we become the dynasty. Pretty close. Got to get by KC. Neil Gonzalez, Stan the man, bought the team, and now we're here looking to make a Super Bowl run. It all worked out. Rest in peace, Rosenbloom. Yeah, I guess there's no litigating the past at all. Willie Bowen, agreed, Steve. Guy Smith said a lot of Rams fans lost a lot of money to Brady that year. I was one of them. Hey, the Rams, that was a great team. That was a great Rams team. I agree with you. Manuel Vasquez, we were sacrificed in the name of patriotism. Scott B, I think Leonard Little would do well on our defense. Now, Leonard Little would be absolute gold right now, wouldn't he? Can you imagine? Even a later version of Leonard Little, who, by all accounts, I've heard everything's turned around for him. It was just a horrible thing, that he did, right? But I think I'll take correction. I think he's done all the right things since, and you're still limited to what you can use him for, bring him back and talk about him. But Leonard Little, in his, later years would be even terrific right now for the Rams to spot Young and Verse. Yeah, I agree. Let's see. Laugh that out to Manuel. That is funny. That is the line of the day. We were sacrificed in the name of patriotism. I'm going to use that. I'll credit you, Manny Vasquez. I'll credit you. Okay, guys, we're at the 52-minute mark. Manny gets the game ball. Manny gets caught. Daniel Vasquez, send me an email, and I'll send you a Kistler mug in Ram colors. There you go. Daniel Vasquez. I'll send you something if you send me your email. That was the best line of the day, right? We were sacrificed in the name of patriotism. God bless, guys. We'll see you.